Welcome to America at Play. I'm your host, Butch. Here with me tonight is my co-host, Tony Cons, and our special guest is Mike Hartzler, a former player I coached when he was a high school freshman. And we are here to talk sports, specifically the Detroit Red Wings and the Detroit Lions. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Butch. Glad to be here.
All right, I'm gonna age myself here. Mike, how old are you now?
55. 55.
Tony, how old are you?
Yes. 53.
Huh?
53.
And I coached both you guys. And I coached both you guys when you were young.
Hey, one time at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you were old.
At one
I
point.
thought you were old when you were coaching.
Well, he was.
Well, yeah, you probably did. You were 14. I was like, what? That would have been like 24, 25. So 26 maybe. But anyway, gentlemen, we're going to start this out with talking about the Red Wings. Mike, you're everybody here is big hockey fan. And everybody here is big Detroit Tigers people. We've all played hockey. Well,
Yes.
Tony hasn't. You and I, Mike, have played hockey. All three of us have played baseball. What we're going to start out with tonight is what's going on with Darren Larkin in his play of late, and the coach actually calling his ass out. Mike, take it away. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think Larkin hasn't hit his peak yet. First of all, I think he has problems keeping his confidence up, and which makes it difficult for him to lead the team. I think the guys, look up to him, and if he's not playing up to the standards expected, the coach needs to get with him and say, hey, you got to step it up. Recently,
you've been in that position.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have. Not only my play, but my academics, and but Larkin, back in February, he was 13th on power play goals in the league. So he's set to be tied here, and if he continues to play that way. So it's not all bad, for Larkin. Everyone gets in a slump, and that's when the other guys got to step up.
And they're struggling. The Wings are struggling right now too. Tony, what's your thought on the Larkin situation?
Yeah, I don't think it's an effort thing, right? So I think he's a very good captain. I think he comes to play night in, night out. Things will start to click for him. Look at it, clicked in the exhibition. So he played really well. So it'll come back around, and it'll come back around. What do we got? A dozen games left or so, right? He's got some time
Not sure
to figure
how many
it out.
there are.
He's got. Well, I could tell you. I wrote it down.
I'll tell you what, guys.
13 or 14.
I think there are my personal opinion from a coach's aspect is I think there are nights that Larkin takes off. He'll play 2 or 3 really good games, and then he'll just be you don't even realize he's on the ice. Tony, you talk about that game, that outside game in Columbus, which, by the way, guys, I thought being on the natural ice outside, that might have been one of the slowest games as far as moving the puck, skating, and so forth that I've seen in a hell of a long time. It was just weird to me. But and I've never noticed that in an outdoor game before, but that game just seemed to be super slow. Maybe it's because it was so cold. I think it was 10 degrees or something there. But as far as Larkin's concerned, I think he has to step it up. I think the coach is right. He's got to take it to the next level. And the question is can he take it to the next level? So, Tony,
You
what's
got
your
then
thoughts
you
on
got to
taking it to the
remember.
next level? Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, you got to think about too the other veterans on the team. They got to step it up also. I mean, they're older,
Agreed.
have more experience. That would help out with Larkin.
Yeah. Tony, what's your thought?
Like I said, I don't think it's an effort thing. It's just about substance, right? If he's out there, he's skating hard. Is he putting himself in the right position, in the right place to go after loose pucks? Is he putting himself in a position to receive a pass from his teammate? Or is he just out there skating hard? And I think that's probably what he's doing. He's probably out there skating hard, but not really being effective. He's trying to be effective, right? It's just not working out. So he'll have to get back
Well,
to the
and
basics.
like Mike said too, when a player's struggling like that, some of the other veterans got to step up, and one of them that comes to mind for me is Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is another one. First of all,
Definitely,
he's not
definitely.
very good defensively. I love him. I love him on the team. I want him as a Red Wing. He's got great hands. He's got great instincts. He passes extremely well. He's got a great shot. But defensively, he reminds me of somebody from back in the old days named Wendell Clark. Great offensive player, great player. But when it comes to defense, he leaves something to be desired. So let's go on to the next thing. Boys, do the Wings make the playoffs? Tony, I'm going to let you lead this one.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think they do. Okay, but when I look at the remaining schedule, they only have one team that's under 500. They only play one team that's under 500, and that's the Sabres.
Right.
So, they have to face the Hurricanes twice, the Avs once, the Senators twice, the Capitals once. Yeah, I mean, they'll make the playoffs, but they'll have to get in on the second wild card spot, in my opinion. Tough schedule.
Well, I think there's no question about the second wild card spot. And I got to be honest, for what you just said, Tony, that schedule's tough. And we'll get into this in a minute. I'm not sure the goaltending can get them there for starters, but the schedule's tough. I'm not sure they're going to make the playoffs. I hope they do, but I'm really not sure they're going to make the playoffs. I still think they're a little bit short. Mike, what's your
Well, we
call
got
on this?
the trade deadline coming, Butch. They can make some acquisitions.
I know. Mike, what's your call on this?
Well, yeah, I want to go back to the beginning of the season, and this is the last few seasons where they start out slow. They're lollygagging. Those games count for points. Right now
Right.
they got 66 points. That's fourth in the Atlantic Division, with the Leafs leading it with 72 or something like that. So maybe even 74. I'm not positive on that stat. But that's a lot of ground to make up. Late in the season. The games that I did go to last year and this year, early in the season, they were disappointing. I mean, if you watch their play after Coach McClellan came in, and you could see them. Everyone wanted to keep their spot, so they were moving. They look kind of lazy recently, and those points that they missed earlier in the season is really going to affect their ability to get in.
Losing the last 4 points to the Blue Jackets, that doesn't help either. You at least got to split those points because they're behind you in the standings. You can't afford to lose all 4 points to those guys. And I'm with you, Mike. The last couple games have reminded me of the Wings at the beginning of the season. And what question is, do you think they make the playoffs?
I don't think
Mike?
they do as much as I'd like them to do. I don't think
Mike,
they're
can you
there
hear me?
yet. Yes. Yeah, I can hear you. I don't think that they're going to make playoffs this year. I think they got to step up more to get in there. If they do, that's a bonus. That's a bonus for Detroit because I mean you got the Lions and the Pistons are starting to come up. The last time that the Red Wings and the Pistons were in the playoffs at the same time was 1957. So it's been that long since both teams been in. Then you got the Lions throwing it. I mean, Detroit's going to be rocking if they do, and that brings
Oh
in
yeah.
money to Detroit. And there's a lot of improvements going on in Detroit. People want to be there, and it's exciting. So I hope they do get in, but I don't think they will.
I'm kind of where you are. Next thing is, if they make the playoffs, how far can they go with the goaltending they have? Mike, what's your thought on that?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the team's play. If everything's not flowing, that includes the goaltender, and if the defense isn't good, the goalie can't be good. So, um, like I said, stepping up, everyone's got to do their role. You can't say, well, this goalie stinks because they're getting this many goals. No, it's a reflection of the play that's going on the defensive, part of the ice. So, as in switching goalies this late in the season, I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, one of the things I've noticed in the last few games is they're not blocking shots like they used to, and they're not clearing out in front of the net like they used to. And Mike, you know all about being a defenseman and blocking shots. We won't get into what happened to you in high school. Let's just put it this way. I bet you've worn a cup since then.
Well, I was on my way on that play to um, uh, a breakaway because I blocked it with my groin, and let me tell you,
Right.
that's a lifelong
Oh
painful
yeah.
injury, and I wouldn't do that again. I mean, that's not stepping. I would step in front of the puck, but maybe this time or that time, I could wear a cup. So
Yeah,
a lot,
that'd probably be a good idea.
a lot of young
Tony,
players
what's your thoughts
at
on
the
the
time.
goaltending?
Uh,
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
That was the talk of the town, Mike.
oh yeah, I had the
What's
school
your
call me
thought?
in the hospital trying to verify.
Yeah. T-Bone, what's your thought?
Are you
I
talking?
think
I'm kind of mixed.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, we seem to be delayed a
T-Bone,
little
what's your
bit,
thought?
Butch.
Yeah, a little bit. T-Bone, what's your thought on the goaltending?
um, I think I think the Wings are, if they make the playoffs, they'll be one and done. And it's not like Mike said, it's not so much the goaltender as it is our defensive play. We're not helping our goaltender out at all.
I would agree with that, especially recently. The one thing I will say about the goaltending is I personally like Lyons better than I do Talbot. I know where they're playing Talbot. He's the veteran. He's a guy who's been there. But I feel Lyons has played better this year than Talbot has. He makes the stand on your head saves where Talbot makes the saves he should make, but he doesn't make any stand on your head saves very often. That's just you know how I see the goaltending. Who has to step up for them to get into the playoffs and then to have any success in the playoffs? Um, Tony, who do you think has to step up?
So first of all, do you know what other goalie didn't make stand on their head stops was Chris Osgood. He just made the stops he was supposed to make, right? And that worked out pretty well. So back to what needs to happen is defensive play needs to get stronger and better and more responsible.
Okay. Mike, what's your thought on that?
I think Larkin needs to come out of the slump, and I think the team will get fired up about it and follow him. And if that happens, might see some exciting times happen here in Detroit.
Again, from a coach's aspect, I see several people who need to step up. I think on the offensive side, Larkin and Kane and Telesinko all need to step up. I also think the defense needs to tighten up a little bit. Although I do like that kid Johansson, and I think one of the goalies, I don't care which one, we need to get a goalie who gets hot.
Definitely.
Okay. Last thing on the wings, boys. I am reading this, of course. Tony, you brought up the trade deadline earlier. Do the Wings make a trade before the deadline? Mike, what's your thoughts?
Definitely. They definitely need to have a strong deadline. If they don't, it's going to hamper them hugely. So, yeah, my opinion is they got to get some offense going to help them all out, to help Kane, to help Larkin. So, yeah, they need a strong deadline for sure.
Who do you think they go after? Any ideas?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I have that in my notes here. Let me see here. You can go ahead, Tony, for a minute.
Okay, so I got a couple names here. I think Steve could do a couple of trades, right? I like the kid Dylan Cousins from Buffalo. I'd like to see him come over. And the Predators have got my butcher's last name, Jonathan Marchessault. You guys recognize this name?
Yeah, no, I'm not up. I'm not up to speed on that. I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
So I like the Dylan Cousins thing because Buffalo's out of it. He's a good young player. I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see them both happen, honestly, you guys. I'm not sure if that'll happen though. But I did miss on something earlier. Not just defensively, but our penalty kill blows. Right? Like our power play is very, very good. Our penalty
The number one power
blows.
play in the NHL.
Yeah. But you gotta have a better penalty kill if you're gonna go anywhere in the playoffs. You gotta be better at it.
Agreed. Mike, who do you think if they trade, who you think they're going to go after?
Well, we could use Ovechkin. No, that's just a joke. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know right now. I'd have to take a look at that.
I'll tell you down here in the South, since you guys are, by the way, you two live very close to each other. Mike, you're back in Howell, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And Tony's in Milford.
Back.
Here's
my walls are paved.
Here's what they're talking about down here. They're talking about a couple things. One of the things that has been talked about in the big trade bait down here has been Larkin. They're talking about trading Dylan Larkin. That's all the talk down here is Dylan Larkin. The two names that have come up, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the captain of the Edmonton Oilers, a one-on-one swap. And then the other one that has come up has been the younger of the two Kachuk brothers. That's what we're hearing down here in North Carolina.
No chance.
So
Kachuk's not getting traded. Neither one are getting. No, neither Kachuk are going to get traded. There's absolutely no chance.
I'm just saying that's what we're hearing down here. I'd love to. Hey, listen, I would trade a Kachuk for Larkin. I would. I'm sorry.
Fuck yeah, me too.
I think the Kachuk brothers are badass.
Yeah.
So
I'll take one of them.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that. Go ahead, Butch.
No. And the other thing is and Tony, you're right about them having to tighten up their penalty killing. But Mike, you also mentioned that they got to get some offensive players to help Larkin and Dubinic out. Here's what's amazing to me: their offense struggles, but yet they're number one in the league in the power play, which makes no sense whatsoever. You would think with an offense that struggles, their power play would struggle, but they're not. To me, that's a little weird. Any thoughts on that, either one of you
Okay.
guys?
Yeah, well, going back to the to trading Larkin, if they were to think about even, well, obviously they're thinking about it. If they were to do that, my opinion is that they should go for 2 or 3 young players that have a little bit of experience. Instead of you got Kane who could step in as a leader, and he needs to step it
Right.
up. He's kind of playing like I'm at the end of my playing career, just like Ovechkin. And if I get a goal, I get a goal. If he was to be able to step up as the captain, you got 3 new offensive young players. That could make a huge difference to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. By the way, before we get into the Detroit Tigers, which we're going to switch to now, Mike, fill us in. I know this. Tony doesn't know this. You're back playing rec hockey, correct?
Well, yeah, we don't call it rec hockey. We call it, well, it's not exactly drop in. It's an OG league, but it's not a league. We play against each other 3 times a week here in Howell, and one afternoon in Brighton. And we have regular skates where we have the time, because a lot of ice time is late at night for men's leagues, where we got this group of
Right.
guys who've been doing this for 30 years, and we're just getting our exercise in and keeping our skills up, and it's a really good time.
Cool. Cool. You got to be in shape if you're doing it at your age.
Yeah, you can see
All
my
right, boys,
belly,
let's talk
can you?
Detroit Tigers.
All right.
Let's talk Detroit Tigers. Um, I'm hearing down here really good things about the Tigers, and then I'm hearing really bad things about the Tigers, that they got worse, they didn't get better. Um, Not too sure. I don't agree with that. We'll get into that here in a minute, but let's start out with the starting pitchers. Um, to me, they have obviously they have the Cy Young Award winner, and getting Flattery back is not going to hurt them. I like the Olsen kid. Not too sure about Mize being number 5. Because I didn't think after coming off his injury last year, I did not think he looked good at all. And the one that surprises me, guys, okay, they're talking about Job may not make the opening day roster because it's so crowded, in the bullpen. But what in the hell ever happened to Manning? He started out as a starter last year. He got hurt. He got sent down to Toledo, and he's not even talked about anymore. And he is in spring training. Tony, you're the big baseball guy. What's your thought on that?
Well, I got Matt Manning as number 7 on a depth chart, in my opinion. So, and I also have
Okay.
Jackson Job number 4, you guys, in the depth chart, ahead of Casey Mize. That's just where my head is. I'm not going to take a kid who throws over 100 miles an hour and not put him on the roster. Think about this, you
I agree.
guys. We threw him in the middle of the playoffs on a magical run. Took this kid, and he started essentially his MLB debut in the playoffs in a team that probably shouldn't have been in the playoffs.
Yeah. Mike, what's your thoughts on the starting rotation?
Well, I'm not the baseball guy as much as the hockey guy. I really can't comment on the pitching. I was looking at more at the problem in the outfield
I just want you.
with some
I just want to remind you of one thing, Mike.
with our injuries. players.
You got
two
your
of them
nickname
to
Bam
be
Bam from playing baseball.
specific. So right now I can't talk on the pitchers.
Okay. Tony, I'm with you almost across the board. Okay. I put Joe.
Yeah.
I throw him in as a starter right out of the box. The kid throws over
Number
100
4.
miles an hour. He's got great control. I'm not at this point in time
I did.
a big Casey Mize fan as a
And
starter.
that was cleanup.
I
I
mean,
was the
even when he
cleanup batter
starts,
in the
even when he has
catcher.
a good game, he only goes 4 or 5 innings. I would put Mize
And I
below
cleaned
Manning, quite frankly.
up.
So that's just my opinion on a starting pitcher. All right. Do the Tigers sign somebody who can help offensively or for a third baseman before the start of the season? Mike? Mike, did you get that question?
I don't think he can hear you.
Tony,
I can hear you.
I don't know. Can you hear me, Mike? Okay, Tony.
I can hear you. I can hear you, Butch.
Tony, you take that question. We'll see if we can get Mike back here. Do the Tigers trade for an offensive player or sign an offensive player or third baseman before the beginning of the season?
No, I think they do it. I think we go into this thing, see where we're at about a week or two before the trade deadline, and Scott Harris makes a decision depending on where we're at. But I think if we're in a good spot, they absolutely trade for a third baseman. Yeah, Mike's frozen.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Just so you want to talk about the starting lineup real quick?
Well, no, let's talk about this trade thing. There's a couple of hold on one second, honey. You want to text Mike? Let's talk about this offensive player trade thing. Okay. I've heard down here there's been a couple of rumblings. The third baseman from the St. Louis Cardinals, which was their backup plan to Bregman.
Mm-hmm.
And, defensively, it's a good move. And offensively, quite frankly, it's not a bad move. I mean, the guy's not horrible. The other one I've heard down here is, and I'm gonna screw this up. I can picture the guy, and I'm gonna say it's Tucker that was with the Dodgers. Is that correct, Tony?
I don't know.
And then the other one that I've heard is the first baseman for Toronto, Guerrero.
Yep. He's expensive though.
Right, correct. But I've heard those are the 3 names I've heard. Josh Tucker, that's the guy, the other third baseman, but he's 40. Tucker's 40, so at best he's a 1-year guy. Okay. I think personally, I think offensively, and I've thought this since last year, they've got to pick up some offensive players. This team is not a good hitting team. When your leading hitter hits 262, you're not a good hitting team.
You're gonna hate me for this, but I think
Go ahead.
Two things. I think Torkelson has a better year this year as coming off as a DH. He won't be the starting first baseman, but I think he'll have a better year hitting. And I really think that Baez, I think the surgery on his hip, I think he's going to get back to being able to hit. I mean, you and I have talked about this prior. When you have hip issues, you're trying to anticipate because you can't load. So you're trying to anticipate pitches. So you're swinging at pitches that are 2 feet outside the strike zone, but you had committed to that pitch before it left the pitcher's hand because you can't drive, which slows your hands down.
Well, we've talked about that on before.
Yep.
And for everybody's sake, I hope you're right. Okay. But you know where my mind is at too, back to being a coach, is when let's say you're right on that. And he got into these bad habits because he couldn't rotate. Now you got to get him out of these bad habits. Now they've become natural to him. Okay.
I don't think
And
so.
that's to me, that's the I think that's going to be the problem. And I actually watched the game against the Blue Jays on Saturday. He's doing the same shit. He's swinging at outside pitches and trying to pull the ball and missing it by a foot and a half. Um, I'm kind of from Missouri on this. You know, Baez is going to have to show me. As far as I'm concerned, the kid we got from the Dodgers is a starting shortstop, and you fit Baez in where you can when you can, but you don't make him an everyday player. You don't. At best, he platoons. Um, that's just my opinion. Now, Torkelson, I agree with you on Torkelson. You don't give up on a guy who 2 years ago had 31 home runs, or I'm sorry, 30 home runs and 91 RBIs. Okay, the guy can play good defense. So maybe you platoon him. Maybe his struggling is with right-handed hitters. Um, but you don't give up on a guy like that. I believe we've got enough starting pitcher with guys like a Mize or even a Manning, um, where you can give up a pitcher or two to get a really good hitter, and everybody's looking for pitchers. So um, that's just my thought. Now, Mike, do you ever go to Tiger games anymore?
Well, yeah. So I was at the last game of the year for him there in the playoffs. It was a cold night. Had a good time, but we took that loss, and I would say it was enjoyable, but not enjoyable.
Well, um, out of the Tigers team, Mike, who would be your favorite player right now?
The pitcher, the
No,
number
not
one
pitcher,
pitcher,
player.
Well,
Oh, Scuba?
Terry's
player. I would say Meadows, but he's hurt right now, so he's
Right, right. He is
outfielders.
hurt. He is hurt.
So
And by the way, let's back this up for just a second, if I may. Third base, and I know Tony, you think I'm crazy, but right now, if they don't do anything at third base, you got to play Verling there. You have to.
I actually penciled him in at third base. I have him at third base right now at the opening roster.
Yeah, I mean you cannot
he's also
play
injured right now, though.
anybody.
He is, yeah.
What's
Mike,
that,
you're right,
Mike?
he is.
Oh,
Verling
he's
is
hurt too.
injured
Yeah,
right
showed
now
him.
with a rotator cuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they're looking
yeah.
at the minor leagues. They're looking at Toledo to get some young guys to come up to cover for Meadows and Verling. So
Is
hopefully,
Meadows hurt that
that'll
bad?
work out for them because they're going to be weak. I know Meadows is
I
hurt. I don't know exactly what, but Verlaine with the rotator cuff.
Yeah, Meadows
I know
is
Meadows is
a
with an arm.
bicep. Yeah, bicep.
Yeah, Meadows is an arm. It's a bicep. It's an arm issue as well. But I thought they expected Meadows back before opening day.
Well, he's day to day right now, you guys. So that
Right.
says to me they're expecting him back. But you never know. I mean,
I
they
did
could be
not
lying
realize
too.
Verling. Well, I did not realize Verling had a rotator cuff problem. That's big. That's really big, especially if you want him playing third
Yeah.
base.
Oh,
You know,
oh,
that could be a big blow to them. Okay. Well, next question is pretty easy. Who ends up at first base? Tony, you and I've had this discussion. Um, we'd both like to see Torkelson, but right now he's not ready to take it full time. The Tigers, if anybody's been paying attention, have been playing Keith Colt there a lot. And again, I've said this before. I don't understand, quite frankly, why they don't try Colt at third base. He's got the arm, and if Torres is going to take over at second base, he just kind of seems like the right fit to it. and he can hit both left-handed and right-handed pitching. So, what's your thought, T-Bone?
I think Colt Keith can you play it at either corner, whether it be third base or first base. I'd like to see him at first base now to start the season until Torkelson can, figure his shit out, and then transition him possibly over to third base. Then it covers it. That's best case scenario.
Okay.
Now we have our third baseman and we have our first baseman. If that doesn't happen, then Colt Keith stays at first base and we go find ourselves a third baseman. If it can't be Verlaine, somebody else.
I know.
I can hear you, Butch. Oh, Mike's gone again.
No, I know. Yeah, sorry about that. The other person they've been playing at first base in spring training, and nobody's talking about, is Maben. Now, Maben's a big target over at first base. That boy's what is he? 6'4", 6'5"?
I don't even have Maben on my list.
Yeah,
how about that?
He's been playing back there. It's interesting to say the least. We'll just leave it at that. Let's take up the situation with Meadows. If Meadows is hurt for a while, at that point, what does that make the outfield look like?
Honestly, okay. So let's assume that Meadows is going to be hurt and Verlaine is not, right?
Okay.
Verlaine's a natural outfielder anyway. So we're talking about Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Matt Verlaine in the outfield if Meadows is hurt. I don't think Meadows is going to be out long term. But now with Verlaine maybe potentially being injured as well, I don't know the answer to that question right now. I don't know what the I don't know what our depth looks like either.
Hold on one second.
Could put Baду out there, but I know you don't like Badu, so
I hate to say this, and you're right, I don't. Okay. But do you play Maben more? They want more right-handed power. Do you play Maben more? Obviously, you're going to play Carpenter out there now with Meadows hurt. You're going to play Perez. Those two are no-brainers. Maybe what you do in left field is you play Maben against the left-handers and play Baду against the right-handers.
How old is Maben?
Maben, I don't think he's that old. I think he's only like 24.
Okay.
I know who you're thinking of. You're thinking of the Maben that we
he's
had
long retired.
3 years
he's
ago.
long retired. Yeah, he's long
gone.
retired.
He's gone.
If that dude was fast. That dude was fast, man.
Yeah, he was just a good player. He just when he first came up as a rookie, and the reason the Tigers let him go is because they just had no room for him. When he came back, he did a hell of a job for him for a couple of years.
Yeah, and he left. He left to get paid too. He didn't just leave. He left to get paid.
Well, here's the other thing: Keith Cole. Okay,
it's Colt Keith, but that's okay. It's Colt Keith.
Yeah, Colt Keith.
Not to correct you.
Can he play the outfield?
Listen, I
I'm
think
saving
these guys
saving the best one for last because I'm hearing it down here and I don't like it.
I think these guys are athletes, right? I think these guys they're professional athletes. Will you lose? It's kind of like when you take like any player and you move them from third base to first base. Are they as good of a first baseman? Like Miggy, are you as good of a first baseman as you are a third baseman? No. But your bat's so good, we'll take the opportunity. When you're a good hitter, you got 4 or 5 chances to change a game, right? When you're a right fielder, you have 1 or 2 chances to fuck it up in a game. So I'll take my odds with a good hitter and put him anywhere, except for center field or shortstop.
Fair enough. Fair enough. One we haven't talked about is McKinstry. And
Again, not even on my list.
He could end up being a starter. Listen, I'd start McKinstry over Badu, and they're both left-handed sticks. Grant you he's a utility guy, but do we have much choice? I guess is the question.
So was Johnny Walkenfuss was a utility guy. So was Tom Brookins a utility guy.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Okay. Who's the closer going to be this year?
I don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you who I want to be the closer.
Okay.
I want to see Tyler Mattinson.
Who you want to be the closer?
Tyler Mattinson.
All right. What I'm hearing is Foley's going to be the closer. What I would love to see, but it's too late now because he's now signed with the Giants, is I would have loved to have seen him bring Verlander back and let Verlander be the closer, just like Atlanta did with John Smoltz at the end of his career. And
it would have been pretty nostalgic.
First time through the lineup. What's that?
It would have been nostalgic.
And listen, the first time through the lineup, even now, good lineups have a hard time with Verlander. And that's what I was hoping they were going to do. I think it's going to be like it was last year, and it's going to be closer by committee. Foley may get the majority of the cracks at it, but I think it's going to be now the other kid they could do, and I know they don't want to do this, is you could start out Job as the closer. Problem is you probably as a starter, and that's where the problem comes in. But kid throwing 100 plus miles an hour for 3 outs in the ninth, not a bad option either.
No, like Joe Zamaya.
Yeah. Old time Goose Gossage, just go in there and throw the ball by him, 3 times and get the hell out of Dodge.
I did ask Jameson his thoughts on this, and he said closer by committee as well.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to end up being again, which is okay. We did okay with that last year. What young guys in the minors do you think can be on an opening day roster?
McKenna? No, he's not in the minors.
You guys, I didn't write down anybody.
Well, I got to tell you, I got one in my head. What's that, Mike?
Jahmai Jones.
You're right. He could be one that could sneak in. Absolutely.
And that's who
the one I had. The one I had was, and it's not going to happen, but I would love to see him bring up that Max Clark kid, especially if Meadows is down. I know it's soon, but that is one special player right there. He's got it all. So, but other than that,
you also got
guys. I just don't understand. Well, 2 things I don't understand. Number one, I don't understand how the hell the Tigers made the playoffs last year with the team they have. Although I tip my hats to Hinch big time. He was a master with 2 starting pitchers at the end of the season. But that being said, you can't do that through a whole season. And does this team have enough offense to make a push at the playoffs? And we're going to wrap it on this. And I'm just going to let you 2 guys go. You don't have to say anything, or you can give your 2 cents.
Well, I'm going to end it with
No.
I'm going to end it with I think the Red Wings fall short for the playoffs. I think, and not to be negative on any of the Detroit teams, but again, I don't think the Tigers have made the improvements they need to get further in the playoffs.
Tony, what's your thoughts?
So coming into this podcast, I was convinced the Wings were going to make the playoffs. Just the Yzerman factor. But Mike's kind of convinced me that maybe they're not going to now, which kind of is a bummer. My hope is for the Tigers is that magical run that they shouldn't have been on last year to make the playoffs really season these young guys to understand how to come out at the start of a season and play like professionals and make a nice run at the top seed, prior to the trade deadline, and then let Scott Harris go out and put a couple finishing touches on it that gets them into a playoff run. That's my hope. And I mean, you guys are both athletes. The more high pressure playing time you get in any sport, the better you get at it. And I think that could be a factor. I think that really could be the thing that put these young guys, into that professional stratosphere where they take off in their careers, hopefully.
Well, I'm gonna finish with this, guys. Mike, I'm with you on the Red Wings. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see the Red Wings make the playoffs. I love the Red Wings, but in what I'm about to say kind of goes back to what Tony said on the Tigers. The Red Wings young players, Larkin included, have never been to the playoffs. And is that the problem? That they're not getting it to the next level because they don't know how to get to the next level. They've never been there. So right now in their heads, they're playing at their best and have never been into the playoffs. Tony, what you say about that is very true. And you might be right with the Tigers, okay? There's enough good players here like Green and Carpenter and now Torres and Rogers, where that run last year at the end of the season and winning in the playoffs hopefully has taken them to the next level. And if it has, it'll be a fun season to watch. I mean, we got the Cy Young Award winner. We got another stud pitcher who was a stud for us, and we got rid of him at the trade deadline. It still made the playoffs. In Flattery, you may have a shot at, you may have a point at that. But I think with the Wings, it may be just the opposite, that right now, until they get playoff experience, they're in a lull because they don't know what it's like to have playoff experience. They don't know what it's like to be there. Does that make sense, guys?
Definitely. I think you're right on there. They were looking forward to grow. The Tigers. They were looking forward to grow. You could tell by the interviews in the locker room last year after their loss. And I think that maybe some of that experience in the playoffs might push them a little bit further.
Yeah. I hope it does. I hope it does. Where the Wings are concerned, I really totally believe that of all the players on the Wings, the two guys that could really help in this last week and a half run is Talbot, the goalie, and Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane's been there. Patrick Kane's a leader, like you said, Mike. Patrick Kane has to come out of this funk of, hey, I'm at the end of my career, and have the attitude of, hey, I'm going to show these young guys how to get there. And if that happens, and we all pray it does, then I think you'll see a new Red Wing Detroit. Even if they go 4-0, you'll see a new Detroit Red Wing organization from that point on, because everybody has to get playoffs. And Mike, as well as anybody, and Tony, so do you. Once you start winning, you get a taste of winning. It tastes real good. You don't want to lose it. I mean, Mike, when I coached you, what did we go, like 37-1-1 or something like that? I know we lost one
was
game to
great.
South Lyon for the whole season.
Yeah.
And when we started, nobody gave us a bad chance in hell. And we went through the league and just kicked the shit out of everybody. Okay, Tony, you've played ball with me for me, where we went into tournaments and stuff, and we were definitely not the favorites in the tournaments. And we got that first couple of wins, squeezed it out, and by the end of the tournament, we were smoking people. Winning breeds winning, and I think that's where the Red Wings right now are running short. It's not that they don't have good young players; they got a lot of good young players, but they've never been in the playoffs. And they got to get in the playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, man,
Gentlemen,
growing up, I was on mostly bad teams. No, growing up through, sports, I was on mostly bad teams, man. I can remember the good teams because there were so few.
Well, you remember when we took you to Owasso and you were 3 years younger than everybody.
I was 12 years old, man. I was 12.
And we smoked them in that tournament.
Yep.
Lost the first game, had to play from the losers bracket and won that tournament.
And beat that team to beat the team we lost to make the championship game.
That's right. Yep. And then we had to beat them again in the championship game, and we did. They were from Owasso. Gentlemen, I ask that you stay on once we end recording long enough, and Eileen will let you know. So we download everything. I want to thank both of you for coming on. Mike, thank you very much for coming on. It's good to reconnect after all these years, and I hope you'll join us again, especially when the Red Wings make the playoffs.
Definitely.
Other than that,
definitely I will.
Other than that, boys, this is America at Play, and we are out.